We go ahead and start off by introducing today's session, Transforming the IT Organization from a Cost Center to a Center of Business Innovation. I would like to introduce Manoj Machiwal. He is one of our consulting directors here at Jade Global, and I've listed his contact details, manoj.machiwal@jadeglobal.com. And again, I am Bijal Shah, Marketing and Trade Show Executive, and also your moderator for today's webinar. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Manoj now, who will review the agenda and continue on with the presentation. Thanks, Manoj.
Thanks, Vijay, and good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for the people in the different geographies. And so just to give you a brief, even before giving the agenda, I just wanted to give some brief thought process about the whole of this webinar. So based on our experience, we have seen a lot of IT organizations. If you see the role of IT, a lot of organizations, they consider IT as more of a cost center rather than having them a business partner and working with them on business challenges and grow the business together as a partner. And that's the purpose of today's webinar, to kind of educate how we can change that perception and how we can become more as a partner to business and change that whole perception. So in the agenda, initially I'll just briefly cover a few of the challenges most of the IT organizations which I have. You might resonate to some of them, and you might have some of your unique. And then we'll talk about what's the overall objective of our IT team, and then finally how we can address those challenges. And finally we'll conclude and take any questions which you might have. And I would appreciate if you can hold on to questions in the last, so that way we can answer most of the questions in most of the attendees. So let's talk about a few of the challenges. So if you see this particular slide, it's kind of any organization, they have to do three things. One is they have to make sure what they have in current operation, they run their current operation smoothly, their production systems are up and running, so that day-to-day business is running very smoothly. That is one of the focus areas for IT. If you see the second focus areas, they have to constantly partner with the business to figure out what are the challenges with their existing system, what are the business problems with the existing technology or existing IT systems are not able to help. Just to give you an example, like one of my customer organization had a huge problem. They deal with a lot of B2B vendors to kind of get their products and supply to the end users. But there is a challenge is the current B2B system is not capable enough to bring that product to the end users very efficiently and in a given amount of time. And that's the reason they were losing a lot of end customer satisfaction because of the delays in the processing and because of other errors which happened during the process. And how do we resolve? So until you have time to like business partners with the technology and identify the needs, and then IT can actually provide the solution which is technology based, which can address that particular business challenge. So that is another focus areas for the IT to focus on. And if you see that a lot of adoptions of the SaaS application, cloud based applications, user adoption of various applications can become much easier, and that is where IT can help again. And the third one, but not the least, is the business innovation, where IT can actually help define new business strategies depending on the technology, which can change the way the people do the business. Like just to give you an example, right? Let's say Nike is a very good sports shoe company, and if Nike wants to change the business, everybody knows that they sell the sports goods and everything. But let's say they want to bring to a new product into the market line, and how do they market? They might be changed. So there might be a completely different business strategy. Let's say they want to bring out some kind of monitoring tool based on the people's sports behavior, how good their health is, and that is something can be very well plugged into their business model. But are they will be able to do with the current technology and current things which they are doing? Probably not. There definitely needs to be some business innovation needs to be needed. Some new standards needs to be defined for that industry. Same thing with the way the social media has changed, the big data has changed, the whole industry perspective in last few years, and that is another example of the business innovation. So, but IT team at any given point of time has to focus in all these three to be a kind of a balanced IT organization. So if I talk about how the IT has matured in an organization, this slide kind of give an idea where your current organization stands. So there can be there are different levels of the IT maturity. So level 1 is there, like processes are completely unpredictable and very poorly controlled. People actually call in, and when some issue happens, and IT kinds of react to issues. And another way, where like level 2, where processes are planned and documented, but it is a very small level, probably one small project level, may not be the whole holistic view of IT. And again, this is again more of a reactive way. But the third way is more of processes are defined at organization level, and standards and procedures and tools are defined to take care of the processes. But again, here still it's kind of become proactive, but still there is not enough statistical analysis has been done, and there is not enough effort has been spent to identify the recurring issues, to identify the places to change some of the processes to make IT more efficient. And level 4 is the one where you actually start taking the statistical look at your support volume and identify are you doing something specific to identify certain trends, like whether a particular module having more number of tickets, can we do something about that? And that's where you kind of generate the trends in the different kind of trends. The trends can be volume of tickets, trend can be productivity, trend can be one specific application which is requiring most of the support time, and last level, which is the most significant level, which every organization strives towards, where the processes are continuously defined, redefined, and it evolves, and the ultimate goal is to have a continuous improvement cycle through innovative methods and identifying the places to changes and giving the most business value out of those changes by spending the least amount of cost and effort. Okay, and that kind of can be given by proper visibility to their support volume and proper statistical analysis. So let's talk about some of the support challenges. There are a few keywords which I have put in here, which I have heard over and over again in different organizations, and like cost being the biggest factor, and another biggest factor which I found, like as you guys has also echoed by a survey question, that there is no time for innovation and business enablement, because most of the time, like 70% of the time, people spend in keeping the lights on. Yeah, I know that is one of the most important factor for the IT, and that is when they have to keep their end users happy and make customer satisfaction. But doing so, they kind of slowly started gaining the perception that IT is more of the cost center, and you kind of react to the issues and really not helping business to partner with them. And another major challenge is like there's a lot of complexities handling multiple different footprints, because technology changes every few years, and over a period of time there is a very complex footprint organizations can grow into. And because of all these reasons and limited budget, and there is always in a zero downtime expectation is always there. And another major challenge which I have found is it's a very unclear service level agreements. My meaning to that is like the business have a altogether different service level expectation for a particular business problem, but IT might think this might not be a problem, and this kind of a cold war between business and IT I have seen in many different organizations, which leads to frustration and not a very fruitful relationship between business and IT. Okay, I'll give you a quick minute to just read this out, and I think I'm most of the people will echo to it, and I'll also give you a quick survey from a industry well-known survey that how that this is happening. Like most of the CIOs, like everybody has a very good kind of expectation and intentions to that they want to spend most of their time to do business innovation, but what happens, they actually end up spending most of their effort and money on support operation because that's their main focus and that's their main bread and butter, and that's where their main end users are going to support them if they are not able to do the basic business operation, right? So see this quick survey. Let me briefly explain you about those surveys, right? So this is a survey done by CIONet back in 2012, and it was estimated like in 2011, like most of the CIOs were like, if you see, they are 37% of the time they wanted to spend on the technology and support operations, and remaining time like 41% on the business process improvement and 22% on the end customer, listening to the end customers. And if you see that changing focus, where they want to go, if you see the technology focus is reducing to 22%, but the overall business focus, which is business process improvement and listening to the end users, which is like 49% and 29%. That means it's approximately, I would say, 76% of that focus or 78% of their focus. They want to work with the business, partner with the business. And the same thing, if you see the not only CIOs, but on the right hand side, the same survey has been done for the IT groups, like people who work for the CIOs, right? And if you see their focus, there's also like huge decline from a technology focus to the business focus, if you see that, right? From 60% from technology focus to 39% from technology focus in 2014. So that's a good intention. That shows a good intention. People are understanding that where they want to go, and that's where they can change the perception of the IT. But are they really able to do that? And that's what, as I see in 2013 today's survey, that people are still like 70% spending time on the keeping the lights on, and that's when the challenges happen. So if we quickly derive the objectives for the IT out of this whole discussion, so I think what they need, they want to have effective operation support where they can optimize the operating cost of day-to-day operation, and also at the same time have a very visible and transparent operation, which will help them to create a service excellence and very happy end users. But also at the same time, they should be able to do that without spending too much of the time in there. Like probably 20% of their time might go there. That's okay, considering their objectives of having innovation and business enablement, because that's where they will change the perception of the whole team. That's where they will work with the business users to identify their needs, do a different small proof of concept projects for them, and give them a flavor of what the IT can do to help them to improve the business and do some high business value projects, which will give ultimate result of doing more business. So let's touch base on more on the solution part of it, how we can actually take care of the situation. Now, since we have determined the problem, like challenge is like how do you reduce the time and cost in support operation to free up the time for doing more of a business innovation, right? So effective support operations, we believe that's when it will happen, when the people will start focusing on the core of their business. I still again want you to focus on this one line. It's a small one line, but it's a very powerful statement here because I'll just want to give one quick example here, right? Just yesterday I was on a call with one of my mortgage service providers. It doesn't give an example of industry specific, technology specific, but it will give you some kind of insight what I'm talking about here. So I was talking to my mortgage service provider for some specific issues on my mortgage which I want to take care, and he said, oh, this is not our process, I will find out. He even didn't ask me whom can help me, and at the end of the call I got more frustrated with the service provider, and because I didn't get the answer what I wanted, and let me give you another example. And a few days back, I called another service provider on the more of a my housing association or something like that. And when I called them, even though the person who on the call, he didn't know the exact solution of the problem, he went out of the way and he figured out who is the right person, whom I can contact, and how in the previous situation, and some was able to help. And even though the person didn't have a solution, but I can see the passion in his voice, and he really was willing to help and resolve the issues, and even though he is not having the solution for. And we believe any industry, that is the kind of passion is needed in customer service, and that's when all the processes and everything else is a kind of a secondary part of it which drives excellence. But the basic ingredient of any successful support operation is you have to be passionate about customer service, and that only happens when you understand the need of your end user, and you kind of echo that, and you figure and go out of the way to figure out that and help that end customer. So now, how we drive the service excellence? So we do that by doing basic. This is one of the methodologies which you use, which has worked pretty good in most of the scenarios. So how we do that? We follow a preventive, corrective, and adaptive methodology, which helps our end customers to drive excellence in service. So what do I mean by that? So at any time when we take any support operation, we have some of the industry best practices framework for any of the technologies and business innovation, business side. So we come up with those best practices and deploy those best practices in the environment, and like give them a business justified service level agreements. Like when the service levels are defined, we make sure that it is consulted with the business and they also on the same page on those agreements. Same thing, there are certain preventive checks for each of the applications which can be defined at this moment. And when we say corrective measures is when you actually start the support operation, take the complete ownership of it. You identify the corrective measures for the recurring issues so that similar issues doesn't happen. And at the same time, identify the creative ways to train end users, because sometimes you just keep on changing, or you just have a different way to do things which may not be very efficient, and so that because of that you might be getting some of the recurring issues. So you have to identify some kind of a groundwork sessions or some kind of a different creative training sessions for the users so that they can have a proper efficient knowledge management session, so that we can improve the overall productivity. And last but not the least, where you kind of adapt to the changing business needs, because business needs keep on changing over a period of time, and you have to identify the current processes, and current technology may not be answering some of the challenges. So you identify over a period of reviews and quarterly reviews, where work with the business and identify such needs and put in small enhancements, and then that will help us to close those issues for a longer and increase the productivity. And just to give you an example of, I do some kind of a trending analysis, like which gives the idea of a resource requirement also. Like sometimes, like end of quarter, you need a higher number of resources, and in the financial domain, probably then during appraisal cycle, you might need more resources in the HR domain. So this is few of the examples of the industry specifics, and but basic idea is to look at the inside data, identify the need, and solve the problem, and that's when it happens. And again, when you put the more enhancement into place to give the business justification, you also look at the low cost and high business value factor. So that will give the most business benefit out of it. So identify the enhancements which will be spending less amount of time, but you can give a very high business value of it. Okay. So let's talk about more on the support process framework. What kind of support process framework can help to achieve these kind of goals. So before we go there, just again I want to reinforce the objective of having a support processes. I know the organization, and we support ITIL, V3 and ISO 20K framework, but still the basic philosophy of the processes are to help and not irritate end users. In my experience, I've seen a lot of places people take excuses in name of the process and try to delay the whole solution part of it, and that is not that is where when people are getting irritated because of the processes, and that's the basic thing we need to always remember, that processes are always to help. And if it's an effective process, they should be able to reduce the support volume. They should be able to build the data analytics, which can trigger the continuous improvements. And at the same time, they should be able to increase the customer satisfaction over a period of time. That means how, like solving the ticket at the first incident and fix recurring issues, improve user experience by being passionate in the service, and also being productivity improvement by deploying few changes which can help business in the long run. Let's talk about basic transition methodologies, like when you transfer the support to a different support organization, how you should plan the whole transition, which will help you. So you kind of do planning where you kind of define your support need, identify the support level agreements. As I said earlier, it has to be business justified support level agreements, because those are the end users and they need to agree on those support level agreements. And when team comes on board, that's when you actually define the baseline data and do a specific knowledge transition related to the environment, and at the same time all the logistic issues and making sure the ticketing tool configuration happens, which supports all your ITIL processes. At the same time, you deploy all the preventive checks at this time. That's when we bring in best practices into the consideration. And once you go to the steady state phase where you take the complete ownership and do a process enforcement. And again, when I say process enforcement, it doesn't mean you are irritating users. You can do process enforcement by educating users that how processes can help, and give them some kind of flexibility to adopt those processes, because they are not used to those processes. But if you give them a benefits out of it, you help them that how these are going to help them over a longer period, that process enforcement happens much faster. And again, SLA adherence and deploy the corrective action, that's another major part of continuous improvement. At the same time, you build the support data analytics and build some shadow support capabilities at this stage. And final one is the continuous improvement, and that's what I said, it's a key to any effective support operations, because until and unless you, over a period of quarter, you review your ticketing trends, you identify the need of volume, and over a quarter by quarter, you should definitely see reduced number of support needs, effective support operations, and so that you can free up your time to do more things. And that's when the continuous improvement derives everything. Again, the governance model, I will talk about that. This is needed because if you, let's say you identify independent organizations to do support operation, because that's when you kind of free up completely yourself to do the more business innovation and working and partnering with business. But for doing that, I'll give you a challenging situation. Like one of the customers told me that, okay, even though I have a different support organization, I still end up in knowing all the P1 tickets, and because I am the sole responsible for the business users, how I'll make I responsible the complete new team who is responsible for that. So what I mean by effective governance, that even though you have a completely different team who is handling support, but you have a complete visible IT operations. Like you kind of a dashboard. I will show you a sample dashboard in some of the slides later. But you should have a sample dashboard which can give you drill down what is going on day to day, even though you are not spending much time. But within the first 10 minutes of your day or first 20 minutes of your day, you can figure out what is going on, what kind of issue is going on, what is the support organization doing to handle those challenges. And that kind of a transparent, visible operation is needed for you to free up your time, and not, so even after you outsource your support to someone, that's the only when you can actually free up your time, when you have a very transparent and visible operation. So that let's say your business users and let's say CEO calls CIO and that, okay, what happened to that application, why is not that working? CIO should have answer ready, and he should know what is going on and what we are going to affect, instead of saying, oh, let me find out. That will not give a proper impression, because that's when he found that CIO is in control, he knows what's going on, and he's already taken the situation in control. So that's when the governance model helps. So governance model has to be SLA driven, and escalation matrix has to be defined for all the severity levels. At the same time, there has to be predefined matrices, which gives you with transparency and drill down to the issues, and there has to be some kind of a communication between support organization and customer team, how they handle the communication of different issues. So I have just one slide on the continuous improvement again, because I want to re-emphasize that how important the continuous improvement is to actually drive the excellence and help cut down the cost, at the same time increase the productivity and increase the customer satisfaction. So the continuous improvement is actually like a 3-step process where you kind of discover by using your service desk management processes the volume of the tickets, kind of bugs you are hitting into, kind of recurring issues you are getting into, and what kind of modules have most number of support needs, and then you kind of manage the overall process where you build the effective knowledge management process, which helps you to improve productivity and which helps you to resolve issues faster and at the first incident, because if you have effective knowledge management system, most of the tickets should be able to solve by first incident by a level 1 support person, right? And you should have very level 2 cases coming along until unless you have a new business changes is going on very frequently. And again, very effective user trainings can also help by managing knowledge management processes. And automate. Automate is again a very effective way to reduce the time and increase the productivity. So you kind of identify the needs of automation, right? You give the automation advisory. Like one of the good example, like probably there might be some security patches or something might be getting applied every quarter. So can you automate that process? Another example of like a lot of organizations have a need of instance which is daily replica of a production. Can you automate that process so that you don't need to do that as per the need? And at the same time, can you automate user trainings? Like let's say user opens a ticket and you identify based on the kind of ticket he's opening. Can you automatically provide him a training resources just based on his ticket and see whether he can resolve his own issue just by quickly glancing through the training document? Are those training documents are effective enough to resolve the issues? Can you track that user has actually closed the issue just by reading the training document rather than going to the IT team to help, right? So these are the few of the IT governance and few of the data statistics which you need to collect to continuously improve the environment. Okay. So I was talking about the sample dashboard here. So this is the one kind of a visibility I was talking about. So if anytime you think of putting your support operations to some external vendor and helping them so that it can help you, this is the kind of visibility you should have where you can drill down each of that. Like so these are the sample dashboard, but each of that has a capability to go and drill down to specific issues, which you can see where your maximum time and effort has been spending. So it gives us a pretty good visibility on your whole IT operation. Okay. So just to reiterate what I said, that passion in service delivers. I again want to name it passion in service. Even though there is like a lot of process improvements and a lot of things needs to happen, but basic ingredient is still a passion who drives those passion process improvements, right? So we have seen like as much as some of the customers who has actually followed these processes, and we have seen like 35% reduction in cost of support operations. So how do we measure that, right? So a lot of time when you see that people measure the cost in terms of the cost per unit of the resources, but the right way to measure the resource and costing is to see whether your actual support operation has improved, because even though you might have cost per unit of the support person might be less, but if we have ticket volume has increased because of the recurring issues, then ticket volume has been increased because end users are not completely trained and they are still frustrated because the recurring issues keeps coming on and IT has not put the fix in place for that. So if you measure the right way, then we have seen that there is reduced number of tickets quarter by quarter. At the same time, you see that like month-end closing kind of has been faster, and you see the end-user customer satisfaction is also increased 20% in a given quarter. And we measure by sending a specific surveys to the users by end of every support ticket, and at the same time we facilitate some kind of a end-user and IT forums where they are open to give their feedback, and from that perspective we found out that if we follow that processes and in place, you have gone as much as 20% of improvement in customer satisfaction in a given quarter. Okay, and in the last, I just want to conclude with that overall effective IT support operation, that's when it will help you to reduce the cost and time, and that will help you to free up the time for you will have more time and budget for doing business innovations, and that's when you partner with the business and do more high business value projects, and slowly will change the notion of IT from cost center to a partner where they can help to grow the business.